Welcome back to SteelersFix Daily, everybody. Here we go. What a Sunday in Foxborough. The Pittsburgh Steelers, our Pittsburgh Steelers, walked into Gillette Stadium, played an ugly, scrappy, absolutely maddening brand of football for long stretches, and still came out with a 21-14 win over the Patriots. And that, my friends, is the kind of win you remember when we get to December and start counting who's stacking victories and who's falling apart. Let's just start right here. This game was about the defense. Period. Aaron Rodgers might have thrown the game-winning touchdown, and believe me, we're going to talk about Calvin Austin and Rodgers being on the same page, but Sunday belonged to Cam Heyward, to TJ Watt, to Nick Herbig, to Brandon Echols, to Peyton Wilson, to Cole Holcomb, to the entire crew that forced 5 turnovers, racked up 5 sacks, and made not 1 but 2 goal line stands in Foxborough. And that's why we love this team, right? The standard is the standard. This franchise is built on defense. When the offense sputters, and man, it sputtered plenty, the defense digs in, takes the ball away, and gives us a shot to win. Now, let's set the scene. The Steelers are 2-1, tied for first in the AFC North. They're one of 9 teams with that exact same record. In a league where parity is king, where only 6 teams are still unbeaten, 2-1 keeps you right in the mix. Is it pretty? Number? Is it good enough? Absolutely. Because September isn't about perfection, it's about stacking wins. You build your resume early, you survive injuries, you find out who you are, and you give yourself the right to play for something meaningful later. And right now, this Steelers team is relevant. They're in the fight. That's all you can ask for after 3 weeks. But let's be honest, this game tested our patience. The offense had 8 possessions, not counting kneel downs. 3 of those drives, 29 plays, 21 points. Beautiful. The other 5, 17 plays, 4 punts, 1 interception, and a big fat 0 on the scoreboard. That's the definition of inconsistency. That's why fans were pulling their hair out when the Patriots ran 71 offensive plays to our 49 and held the ball for almost 7 more minutes. That's draining. That's scary. But every time it looked like the Patriots were about to break through, the defense said, "Nope, not today. Let's go play by play." Cam Heyward, the man is 36 years old, fresh off an offseason full of contract drama, and he was a monster. 6 tackles, a sack, a tipped pass that turned into an interception, and a forced fumble at the goal line. That's leadership. That's showing the young guys how it's done. And then there's Brandon Echols. He's been with the team a short time, but he's buying into the ball search culture Tomlin preaches. Heyward tips a pass, Echols snags it in the end zone. Later, with the game on the line, 4th and 1, Patriots threatening, Echols makes the kind of open field tackle that's a nightmare for defensive backs. Stops Demario Douglas 1 yard short. That's ball game. Cole Holcomb forced a fumble. Darius Slay scooped it. Peyton Wilson fell on another one in the end zone. TJ Watt stripped Ramondre Stevenson and recovered another fumble himself. Nick Herbig? The rookie comes flying in mid-4th quarter, ties the game in knots with a strip sack of Drake May, and suddenly Rodgers has the ball with a chance to win it. That's how you win football games on the road. And this is why Mike Tomlin said in camp that this defense had the potential to be historic. He didn't mean one game in September. He meant over time. He meant stacking performances. He meant challenging his guys to live up to the legacy of steel curtain defenses, of Polamalu and Harrison, of the kind of units that put Lombardi trophies in the case. Well, Sunday was a step in that direction. Now we've got to talk offense, because Aaron Rodgers was fine, not great. He finished with 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, but you felt the rhythm come and go. There were stretches where it looked like he and Pat Freiermuth weren't even on the same page, where the offensive line got pushed around, where the play calling just flatlined. But, and this is the biggest but, Rodgers is Rodgers. Give him one last shot, give him a chance to trust a receiver, and he'll make the play. And that's what happened with Calvin Austin III. 3rd and 6 from the Patriots' 17. Score tied, 2 minutes left. Rodgers gives Austin a subtle signal at the line. Austin, this undersized but lightning-fast receiver, who everyone keeps underestimating, runs the route exactly the way Rodgers envisioned. Rodgers throws a back shoulder fade, not his best throw by his own admission, but Austin adjusts, makes the catch, and suddenly Pittsburgh is up 21-14. That's chemistry. That's trust. That's why you brought Aaron Rodgers here. And let me tell you something. Calvin Austin is becoming a real weapon. 2 of the first 3 games this year, he's delivered clutch plays in critical moments. Rodgers doesn't hand out trust like candy, but Austin has earned it. That final drive reminded us of something important. This offense can finish. They've opened games with touchdowns in 2 of 3 weeks. They've finished games with touchdowns in both of their wins. Sure, the middle is ugly, but when the moment calls for it, they've responded. That matters. And let's not forget Jaylen Warren. The guy runs like he's got a chip on both shoulders. He and Kenneth Gainwell chipped away, caught passes, and gave Rodgers just enough balance to keep the defense honest on that winning drive. Warren's not just a change-of-pace guy anymore. He's a tone setter. So yes, the offense has warts. Yes, Arthur Smith needs to smooth things out. But we saw enough to believe it can work, especially if the chemistry between Rodgers and Austin keeps growing and DK Metcalf keeps drawing attention outside. Bottom line though, Sunday was a defensive statement. Heyward, Watt, Herbig, Holcomb, Eccles, the list goes on. This was their win. And you know what? That's Pittsburgh football. Gritty, ugly, beautiful. All right, Steeler Nation, let's keep this rolling. We've already talked about the defense standing on its head, but I want to dig deeper here, because what we saw in Foxborough wasn't just about raw talent, it was about preparation, culture, and identity. Mike Tomlin calls it ball search. He hammers that phrase into his guys every single week. It's not enough to just make the tackle, it's not enough to just cover your man, you have to hunt the football. Punch at it, strip it, tip it, dive on it. That's the culture. And when you look back at the Patriots game, you see the fingerprints of that coaching everywhere. Think about Cam Heyward's forced fumble on Stevenson. That wasn't luck. That wasn't just a strong man making a strong play. That was film study. That was practice. Stevenson came into this season with a reputation. 14 fumbles in 58 games. That's an issue. That's a weakness. And Tomlin and Terrell Austin had the Steelers' defense circling it like sharks smelling blood in the water. Heyward knew where to put his hand. Wilson was already hustling toward the ball because he knew it might come loose. Boom. Touchback. That's not random. That's cultural. And that's the same mentality we've seen from Steelers defenses going back decades. Remember Troy Polamalu timing snaps and diving over piles? Remember James Harrison ripping the ball away and taking it 99 yards in the Super Bowl? Remember Ryan Clark laying the wood so hard receivers were terrified to cross the middle? That's all part of the same philosophy. Take the ball, change the game. Now I know what some people are saying. Come on, it's week 3. Don't start comparing this defense to the Steel Curtain or the 2008 unit. And look, I get it. History is earned in January, not September. But here's the point. You can see the DNA. You can see the pieces. TJ Watt is already a legend in the making. Cam Heyward is still a monster. Patrick Queen is flying around at linebacker. Herbig is going to make it hard for Highsmith to get his job back and is making splash plays. Eccles is stepping into big moments. This isn't hype, it's production. Now let me give you a little fan perspective here. I was pacing during that game, because when the Patriots ran 71 offensive plays to our 49, I thought, this is going to end in heartbreak. We've all seen those games. The defense bends and bends until it finally breaks, and then it's over. But this group, they bent. They wobbled, but they never broke. They took punches and threw them right back. That's Steelers football at its core. And speaking of taking punches, how about Rodgers? I know. The offense was frustrating. But look at the man's career. This was his first ever win in New England. Think about that. A 4-time MVP, a future Hall of Famer, and until Sunday, he'd never walked into Foxborough and walked out a winner. That matters. That's legacy stuff. He now sits 4th all-time in touchdown passes, ahead of Brett Favre. And sure, he only threw for 139 yards. But when the game was on the line, he threw a strike that sealed the win. That's why he's here. Now let's go on a tangent for a second. Do you remember when Ben Roethlisberger went into Foxborough early in his career? Those games were nightmares. Brady slicing us up, Belichick throwing exotic defenses, Steelers fans sitting there like, we can't get over this hump. For years, Foxborough was a house of horrors. To see Rodgers in black and gold hit Calvin Austin for the game winner in that same building, that's cathartic. That's a full circle moment for Steeler Nation. And speaking of Calvin Austin, let's talk about this dude. People doubted him. Too small, too fragile, just a gadget guy. But here we are, 3 weeks into the season, and he's come up clutch twice already. That back shoulder catch? That's not luck. That's precision. That's chemistry with Rodgers. Do you know how many receivers have struggled to figure out Rodgers' signals, his timing, his demands? Tons. Austin is doing it in year 1 with him. That's impressive. It reminds me of when Antonio Brown first started to click with Ben. Ben would throw a back shoulder, and AB would just know. They didn't even need to talk. It was instinct. That's the kind of connection Rodgers and Austin are starting to build. If that keeps growing, look out. This offense will have more than just DK Metcalf as a threat. Let's not forget the offensive line, though. Broderick Jones, Zach Frazier, Troy Fautanu. This group is still coming together. It wasn't pretty. Rodgers took some hits. The run game sputtered at times. But when they had to deliver late, they did just enough. And that's what young lines do. They take time to gel. Now I want to hit something else. The emotional swing of this game. Steelers go up 14-0 early. We're all feeling great. Metcalf catches a touchdown, Gainwell runs hard, Rodgers looks sharp, and then flatline. The Patriots tie it 14-14. Momentum gone. I'm sitting there thinking, here we go again. But then, bang. Herbig strip sack, Watt recovery, Rodgers to Austin. Defense closes it out. That's resilience. That's what separates good teams from mediocre ones. And let's zoom out to the AFC North for a second. The Bengals? Burrow's already banged up again. The Browns? Still the Browns. The Ravens? Yeah, they're tough, but they're beatable. At 2-1, the Steelers are right there, tied for first. And with a defense playing like this, you better believe nobody in this division wants to see them coming. Let me drop another little history nugget. The last time the Steelers forced 5 turnovers and made 2 goal line stands in the same game, you have to go back decades. That doesn't happen. It's rare. And it's the kind of thing that sets a tone for the season. When guys in the locker room see Heyward punching balls loose at 36 years old, when they see Watt recovering fumbles and slamming quarterbacks into the turf, when rookies like Herbig and Wilson are making splash plays, that stuff is contagious. It builds belief. And fans feel it too. I know I did. I know you did. Every single one of us watching that 4th and 1 stop by Eccles jumped off the couch. That's a pure adrenaline moment. And those moments, that's why we love this game. That's why we live and die with this team every week. Now let me hit on something Rodgers said post-game. He admitted the offense couldn't find rhythm for long stretches. Said he and Pat Freiermuth weren't on the same page. Admitted the interception to Robert Spillane was terrible. That honesty matters. Because Rodgers knows this isn't sustainable. The defense won this game. The offense has to get better. And if you're Rodgers, a guy who's obsessed with detail, you better believe he's going to be on these receivers and linemen all week to clean it up. And speaking of details, let's shout out Chris Boswell. Dude never misses in big moments. He nails the extra point after Austin's touchdown, no sweat. And when you win a game by 7, you remember how important it is to have a reliable kicker. All right, let's wrap this block with a reality check. The Steelers are 2-1. They've beaten the Jets and the Patriots, lost to the Seahawks. They're not blowing anybody out. The offense is inconsistent, but the defense is showing signs of greatness. And in this league, that formula keeps you in the fight every single week. So if you're asking me what this win means, it means the Steelers are for real. Not perfect, not historic yet, but for real. And that's a beautiful thing. All right, Steeler Nation, let's land this plane, and let's do it the SteelersFix way. We've talked about the win. We've broken down the defense, the offense, the key moments. But here's the question we all really want answered. What does this mean moving forward? Because beating the Patriots in September is nice, but we're about Super Bowls in this city. We don't hang banners for Week 3 wins. We hang banners for Lombardis. So let's look ahead. The Steelers sit at 2-1. They've already matched grit with Seattle, outlasted the Jets, and now punched New England in the mouth in their own house. 2 road wins, both in the AFC. That matters. That's tiebreaker stuff come playoff time. And don't forget, in this league, 1 or 2 games can swing an entire season. A win you steal in September can be the difference between playing a wild card game at Acrisure Stadium in the cold or traveling to Kansas City in January. Now, do I think the offense is good enough right now? Honestly, not yet. But that's why Rodgers is here, to elevate, to teach, to demand, and to deliver when the moment calls for it. He's still building chemistry with his line, with his receivers, with Arthur Smith. It's going to take time, but if they can be average to good while the defense plays lights out, this team will be dangerous. And the defense, man, this defense. Cam Heyward, TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Brandon Echols, Darius Slay. That's a core you can believe in. That's a group that can carry you in January. We're not there yet, but Sunday was a glimpse of what it could look like. Let's step back in time for a second. The Steel Curtain of the 70s, the Blitzburg defenses of the 90s, the Polamalu-led units of the 2000s. Those defenses weren't perfect every week. They gave up yards, they gave up points, they had off days, but when it mattered, they made the play. They forced the turnover, they got off the field. That's exactly what we saw in Foxborough. 2 goal line stands, 5 turnovers, a 4th and 1 stop to end the game. That's the DNA of those legendary defenses. And let's not ignore the rivalries coming up. We've got the Ravens on the horizon. And you know how that goes. Every Steelers fan feels it in their bones when Baltimore week arrives. They'll be physical, they'll be tough, they'll test this offense. But you better believe the Ravens are watching tape of this defense and saying, we don't want that smoke. The Browns? They're still the Browns. Yeah, they've got Myles Garrett. Yeah, they've got a defense of their own. But they don't have the culture. They don't have the standard. They don't have the Lombardis. And they don't have this group of veterans leading the way. And the Bengals? Joe Burrow is done and can't even stay upright. That team looks like it's hanging by a thread already. If Pittsburgh keeps stacking wins while Cincinnati stumbles, we might be looking at a 2-horse race in this division between us and Baltimore. Now I want to circle back to something Tomlin said way back in camp. Historic. He challenged his defense to aim for greatness, not just good enough. And here's the thing about Tomlin. He doesn't throw around words lightly. He knows what historic means in Pittsburgh. It means Jack Lambert spitting blood. It means Troy flying over the pile. It means Harrison stiff-arming his way to the end zone in Tampa. That's the bar. And after week 3? This defense isn't historic yet, but they've shown they can take steps in that direction. Cam Heyward at 36 still wrecking games. TJ Watt being TJ Watt, the most disruptive defender in football. A rookie like Herbig delivering in crunch time. That's the foundation of something special. And if you're a Steelers fan, how can you not be fired up? Now let's get real for a second. The offense can't keep going 3 and out this often and expect the defense to bail them out forever. At some point, Rodgers, Arthur Smith, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Jaylen Warren, Pat Freiermuth, they're going to have to find a rhythm that lasts more than 2 drives. But here's the hope. They're figuring it out. Slowly. Painfully. But figuring it out. And they've still found ways to win 2 games out of 3. If you've been a fan long enough, you know this script. The 2005 team that went on the road and won it all, they weren't blowing people out early either. They scratched, they clawed, they leaned on the defense and the run game until Ben and Hines Ward started hitting stride. The 2008 team, they didn't exactly have a top 5 offense. They had a defense that carried them and an offense that made the timely plays. Sound familiar? That's what this year feels like. A defense good enough to scare people and an offense just searching for consistency. If history teaches us anything, it's that this formula can work. And let's not forget the intangibles. Rodgers is chasing his own legacy. Heyward is proving he's still elite at an age when most linemen are retired. Watt is building a Defensive Player of the Year case every week. Young guys like Wilson and Herbig are showing they belong. That's a locker room mix that can do big things. Now let me close this block with some fan-to-fan talk. I know it wasn't pretty. I know some of you were throwing remotes during those 5 empty possessions in the middle of the game. I know some of you were tweeting Fire Arthur Smith mid-drive. But look at the scoreboard. 21-14. Steelers win. 2-1. Tied for first place. And we did it with grit, with defense, with the kind of resilience that defines this franchise. So take a breath. Enjoy it. Because wins in Foxborough don't come easy. Rodgers never had one before. Now he does, in black and gold. Cam Heyward had something to prove. He proved it. TJ Watt keeps adding to his legend. Calvin Austin keeps making believers out of doubters. That's where we stand. The road ahead is long. The season is young. But the standard is alive and well.